What is going on, guys? My name is Taylor Stuber, and I'm here to break down two of my favorite NBA player props on Prizepicks.com. If you guys are new here, welcome. If you guys are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Likes and comments are also greatly appreciated. You know, I'm feeling rejuvenated after that one-day break of there being no NBA, but it is playoff time, and I do think that there's going to be a ton of edge, and especially when it comes to the in-game showdown or the in-game props, second half, fourth quarter props, which they're going to be plentiful of them going on, just because every night there's going to be one or two, assuming that they allow second half and fourth quarters for all of the games, which I think they will for the most part. You know, down the stretch of these games, I think there's going to be a ton of edge. I'm going to be providing like a ton of plays on the Patreon if you guys want to join that. $25 a month. It's linked down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. But yeah, we got a couple plays today that I'm very interested in. I'm going to be posting a couple other ones as well. But for this video, I'm going to be talking about two of them. Guess who I played last day of the slate of the regular season? Yeah, that's correct. Talon Horton-Tucker gets injured the first half. Back-to-back injuries to end the regular season. Just how the last month is gone. So it is what it is. Bounce back in the playoffs. Please, God, I hope so. But yeah, let's just jump right into it. So the first guy we are going to be talking about is going to be Paul George, over 48 fantasy score against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I was going back and forth debating if I wanted to take his PRA or his fantasy score, but, you know, I have been playing Paul George a ton this year before his injury, and the steals have been wild. His steals on a per 36 basis today have been around 2.3. If I can find his per 36, we got ads on here. Cool. 2.2 steals per game, 0.4 blocks per game. If you look at his recent games, he's been very active in the steals and blocks categories. Pretty low on turnovers, despite the ball being in his hands the most out of anybody on this team. Has eventually surpassed Reggie Jackson in time per possession on that team. But his minutes have been scaling up. You know, he's only played 5 games since returning from injury. He was playing like 28 minutes a game. Last game got up to 34 minutes. So if we're going to get a game where he plays 36-38, which I really do think that we can get him in that 38-minute range tonight in the highest scoring game of the slate. I really like Paul George. If you look at his stats since coming back, Paul George has a 31.1% usage rating, a total rebound percentage of 9.9%, which is very good against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who struggle on the offensive board, like nearly last in the league. They're nearly last in both half-court defense, offensive rebounds allowed, putbacks allowed. Could be a really big game for Paul George on the boards. And to go on top of that, Paul George has a 33.3% assist percentage, averaging over 10 potential assists since returning. But again, he's going to be playing more minutes than he has been, and he's been surpassing this number in limited time anyway. So if we get bigger minutes from him, I see no way that he does not surpass this number. I know it is a tougher matchup from an individual matchup standpoint, just because they have the Timberwolves have lengthy guys like Jared Vanderbilt, like Jaden McDaniels. I almost blanked on his name, but I don't think it matters. Paul George, his usage, his role on this team is going to be so massive, and he's been incredibly efficient. I think Paul George is going to remind everybody just who he is in this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I love his over 48 fantasy score. Just to reiterate, you know, he's averaging nearly 3 steals/blocks per game on a per 36 basis. Minnesota Timberwolves bottom 10 team in terms of keeping the ball in their hands. They like to turn it over a ton. I think Paul George rips some of them. If he gets 2-3 steals here, that's 6 or 9 fantasy scores alone right there. So love the Paul George over 48 fantasy score. The second play I'm going to be talking about is going to be Evan Mobley over 36 fantasy score. Another guy that I was contemplating going between that and his PRA, but I am going to side with the Evan Mobley over 36 fantasy score, just because if you look at his per 36 numbers, he is averaging 1.8 blocks and oh man, this thing is really messing me up. This ad here. He is averaging 0.9 steals and 1.8 blocks per game. And, you know, he started off really slow defensively to begin the year in terms of steals and blocks. But as as the season has progressed, he has become a lot more dominant inside of the paint. And Bickerstaff has already mentioned how vital he's going to be here in this matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. He said in the fourth quarter, he saw some mistakes that they made and what they can capitalize on. You know, Darius Garland is obviously the go-to guy offensively here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Brooklyn Nets know that. They are going to put Bruce Brown on him yet again for the majority of the game. And they're going to give him some secondary help as well. So I do think that Evan Mobley is going to be, probably the second leading scorer on this team. He's still going to be behind Darius Garland. Wouldn't be surprised if those roles flipped. Also, I think Darius Garland over 8.5 assists is pretty interesting to pair with Evan Mobley, because if this game can't stay competitive, it's probably because both those guys are getting it going. It is an unimposing matchup against Andre Drummond or Nicholas Claxton coming off the bench, but down the stretch of the season, and like we saw at the beginning of the season, we have seen a lot of Kevin Durant at the 5. I think we could see that here. We haven't seen it as much since Andre Drummond has joined the team, but down the stretch of the season, Andre Drummond has not been playing very well, and Nicholas Claxton has been taking some of those minutes. And like I said, Kevin Durant in some of these games has been playing some minutes at the 5. I think in this matchup specifically, since they are without Jared Allen, the Cleveland Cavaliers, that is, they don't really have that ability to play really, really big, and they can get away with Kevin Durant at the 5, which is going to be a better matchup for Evan Mobley, and a better rebounding matchup specifically as well. And the Brooklyn Nets do like to take shots at the rim, so I do think the steal and block upside is pretty nice for Evan Mobley. Just have to assume that this game does stay close. It opened at like 6.5 points. It's currently at like 9.5 points. I do think that this game can stay competitive enough, and Evan Mobley, returning 2 games ago, played 34 minutes, or got up to 34 minutes in his last game, or 2 games ago. Last game they weren't really trying, and they ended up cutting the minutes short, but played 34 minutes in his game returning, and they said he was only going to play about 30. So you would have to imagine, like Paul George, they're going to ramp up his minutes. He's going to play 37, 38 minutes, maybe more minutes. He could reach that 40-minute mark if they're really trying to win this game against the Brooklyn Nets, which, obviously they are going to be doing so. So I do like Evan Mobley a ton, over 36 fantasy score, as well as Paul George over 48 fantasy score. So appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck tonight, and until next time, peace.